Hi, how's everybody doing? I don't know who's on here, but this is my first time going live, so I'm trying to figure out the ins and outs. Not too many, uh, but you know, hey, we'll see. Oh, good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah. I am with the Radical Health Series. It's a channel that I started, and it's for Black women who are healing, in my case, from sexual trauma at a very young age. And I'm just sharing my journey as I heal. So, welcome for people in the future. All right. July. Okay, I'm just trying to read some of the stuff here on the side. Um, okay. All right. Well, good morning. Okay. And I made a little list here finally. I usually get on and just ramble. So I decided to come up with a list of things that I need to go over, that I want to go over, and that way it'll kind of keep me on track. This is not going to be a real long video, but hopefully it'll help somebody who is visiting Australia for the first time. I am here in Australia as a Black woman from the United States. I am doing house sits. I have house sits scheduled for um, now it is eight. I started in March, and I have house sits pretty much back to back until so far November. Um, so I'm and I'll get into the details about the November house sit in just a minute. But I have the average length of stay before the November house sit has been, I want to say, a little bit less than 2 weeks. I would say maybe 13 or 14 days. Um, but the ones on the end are longer sits. So I had got a few sits, and I'll put my link in the bio in a few minutes. And what they do is I got the premium membership. It's an annual membership. Um, it gets you access to the platform to see people's listings. And Australia is pretty popular for people traveling and going around and getting house sits. But yeah, so the I'm excited. Uh, Now you might hear I'm on a cat sit right now, and you might hear my house companion. She's she's got a little bit of arthritis. She has some few handicaps. She's coming up now. Um, she's partially blind, and a little bit she has some ear problems too. So I open up the door for her, you know. But yeah, um, but yeah, no, I'm gonna pet her at different times just to kind of I'm learning how to do some healing pets. So yeah, I'm gonna I don't know. I might get her a special treat or something later. But anyway, I just started on this house. This particular house that I go right quick is it's gonna be very therapeutic for me. There's a lot of the ladies into meditation, and I'm very excited about that because I wanted to. This is a sabbatical for me. Okay, this whole trip for me is a sabbatical in my healing journey, and so this particular set in my environment is is part of a duplex, but it is very um, serene. She has a lot of plants that she has planted. The back side of it is basically a rainforest, and I'm going to turn this around so I can get a good general idea. Um, a rainforest type environment. It's quiet, and I like the simplicity here in Australia. And I could see myself living here. Okay, but let's get into my 2 weeks. That's how impressed I am at the 2 weeks. Okay, all right. So my first thing, as far as the um I'm gonna start at the beginning. First of all, arranging this took some time. I have a profound appreciation for travel agents now. This took a lot of work. Um, Basically full time for 5, almost 6 months, and of arranging this. There's so many moving parts, but you know, I I felt the need to do this for just to get on the healing journey. Premium membership includes 2 airport lounges, uh, stays in the course of your annual subscription. Now, I'll wait. I'll find out if mine actually took, because the first day of my renewal was the day that I was traveling, and I end up using the pass, and you have to give them like uh they asked for 72. I think I gave them a week's notice that I was flying, and the pass I end up using at the location of departure, which was in Atlanta, Georgia, because my layover was in LA at LAX, and LAX was not on the list of places to be for the airport lounge. So I did use mine on the front end. Um, I enjoyed it. It was buffet style. They had food, they had alcohol. I think I got one drink. I wasn't gonna get too much, but I had that. I had it was a little bit crowded, but I did have my own, own area to sit in. Um, but it was nice. It was decent. Okay. Um, I'm trying to think. I don't think I noticed any. I was actually in the wheelchair on the Atlanta side, and that got me in the door. I know some people say something about people in line. It was a line, but because I had wheelchair assistance, I got pushed right in. And no wait for me, so that was a benefit. And the lounge itself, and then being in the wheelchair. And speaking on that, I don't use my cane a lot, but in certain environments like airports, crowded, where people are running and moving around and stuff, I have to have some kind of assistance, because all that movement and running and stuff like that sometimes make you dizzy. In Atlanta, honestly, Atlanta's airport is a huge airport. It's one of the probably the biggest one that I've ever been to. I think they're listed as the biggest one in the world. So yeah, okay. Um, and also, so saying that, with the reason that I got the premium membership, and there's some other benefits to that. Okay. All right. Let me see. Go on my list. Um, Long flight. Uh, Actually, the total flight was about 22 hours. So no, it wasn't. Let's see there. Yeah, it was, because at the time difference, they're 15 hours. I'm ahead of right now we're on standard time, so it's 15 hours, 14 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So the videos will be, I was trying to think of a time where people would be available. Right now, here it is, um, Good Friday morning, April 7th in Australia, and it's the day before um, that in on Eastern Standard Time. So, but on a long flight, if you're going to be on a long flight, I particularly ask for an outside seat. Initially, I had a window seat, and once I got in, I was one of the first people to get on the flight, and I immediately went to uh, the person on the attendant on the airline, because the lady inside at the reservation desk checking people in to get to the flight, she said all seats were taken and there were no seats left. And as soon as I got on and saw this window seat, and I realized that I would have to keep, because I walk, I would have to keep getting up, and so I asked, and they knew right away, and he pointed out I had a choice of seats, several seats. There was the open aisle seats that were. He was surprised that I asked for an aisle seat, but I told him that my legs were kind of locking up a little bit, and I needed to be walking, and that was on the long flight. That was the LA to Sydney flight. So, but yeah, but ask for what you want. Yeah, ask for what you want. All right. Another thing. Um, okay, getting into the visits. Let me see what else I got on here. Real. Oh, that's once I get here. Okay. Um. Now, as far as Black people being here, honestly, I have seen very, very few on the flight. When we got off at the airport, I probably saw from the airport to my first day, I probably saw 10 Black people. 9 of them were from Atlanta. Okay, so Atlanta has a church by the name of Hillside with the late Dr. King. Um, oh, gosh, I forgot her first name. Yeah, Dr. King, she passed away, but the pastor now there is a guy by the name of Dr. Borman or something like that. But anyway, they have a sister church here in Australia. I think she said it was East Sydney or Melbourne. I'm not sure. But and I'll be in both Sydney or Melbourne, and I'll look them up. If I'm there on a Sunday or during the week that they have a mid service, I'll probably go there. I have visited a church there in Atlanta a few times, but uh, probably in that time I probably wasn't ready. So, but I think I'm mentally ready now. Um, but yeah, and the other Black person. No, I will add one more. The only other Black person I saw between there and my house set was a lady who was waiting on the other side with the train platform that I got off on. She was on the other side of the train waiting to um, um, board the train going in the opposite direction. And so, and then another time I did go to a theater play in the town that I was in called it was Wyong. It's a town. They have a theater, and they had a African Cirque Mother Africa, kind of like Cirque du Soleil, but for people from Africa. So they had that, and I saw, aside from the performers, I saw one lady in the audience that I spoke to. And so I was kind of surprised that, gosh, at least 99% of the audience were not Black. Most of them were white. Um, so I haven't encountered. I've been out a few times, different restaurants, not a lot. But walking on the train, on the bus, I don't know where these people are, but so far I haven't. And maybe when I get to the bigger city, Sydney, I'll probably see. Hopefully, I'll see a lot more. Now the transportation system here is relatively advanced. I could see on the way to my location that it was gentrification, definitely, because I could see where native people, indigenous people, probably would have a lot of waterways in the U.S. and unfortunately here, prime property now with the lakefront, the waterfront, oceanfront properties. The lady that I saw at the theater, she said there was quite a few Black people in the area. I don't know. She said I can contact her to get together and all this stuff. And I think it was just a nice gesture because once I called her and said, okay, can we get together to meet? And she was, I'll call you when I get home. And I never heard from her. So, I don't know. I mean, she was native. She was appeared to be, her companion was older white gentleman. So I don't you know, I don't know the politics of that. She might have been scared. I don't know. So, but yeah, but the trains themselves, um, now I bought what's called a Discover Pass. I bought it. It was $550 Australian dollars, which means it was 300 and maybe $380 or something like that, American dollars. But it's for unlimited rides. And that's considered what's another word for it? Maybe an express train, although the platforms that they use are still for the local train also, which is similar. Okay, so if I was in, let me see, if I was in Atlanta, how would the regional train, what I got the Discover Pass for, I would put it close to, excuse me, close to Amtrak. The name of the company, the New South Wales Transport NSW is the name of their website. And you can get both local and regional transportation on there. The regional transportation takes a Discover Pass. You can get, they have you have to book in advance on the trips. Even though the pass you get up to first class, I bought the premium one for 6 months. That'll give you up to first class on the ride, but you have to book it in advance. You have to book the trip like you would Amtrak. You have to buy the ticket, or you actually have to book it ahead of time. I'll put it like that. Excuse me. I have yet to ride on that train for the schedule because it doesn't. The date of your first trip using the Discover Pass is when the time starts. So I have a trip coming up. Well, I might end up using it from here. I have a bad habit of leaving stuff. I've been 2 places and I left stuff at 2 places. So I'm at the backtrack before I leave the area and go back and get stuff. One was my so like my makeup, beauty products that I left on one location. I said, and in my Airbnb, I had a garment bag that I was using as there were gaps in the window shade, and so I hung it up to use. And I now from here out, I'm gonna ask wherever I go, I'm gonna ask the sitter if they're there to double check to make sure I didn't leave anything, because that's something that I've been doing all my life, and I need help with that. So I will ask, nothing elaborate. I have my computer and plugs and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't want to keep leaving stuff. I'm gonna be here for a while, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And I don't want to keep leaving stuff laying around. Okay. And then the local trains stop. There's quite a few stops for the bigger and smaller stations. One thing I've noticed here, there are restrooms at every single rail station. Okay, so the scanning the pass going in is a honor system. You there's the pass that you have. You can get, once you get above, from Monday through Sunday, if you get above 8 trips on a pass, the rest of the trips after that during that week are half price. I didn't really understand that, which is fine because I don't go a lot of places anyway, but I will when I get to Sydney. But the pass is good for the whole state of New South Wales. It includes the local trains and the buses. It is not, how can I put it? It's not okay. In Atlanta, comparing it to Atlanta and probably some places in the States, you can get an unlimited number, but you put a certain fare on there and you can get unlimited rides. Here it is based on where you get off at is what you'll pay. So, like, I'm not sure. I don't remember because it's been a while since I rode the train in Atlanta, the MARTA train in Atlanta. You could get on at the airport and ride to, I don't know, probably trying to think of some of the ending stations, North Springs or something like that, which is an hour for the same rate. Here you tap, especially on the buses, buses and the trains, you tap your card when you get on and you tap it again when you get off, and that'll determine how much they will charge for the card. You can put a prepaid amounts in there. If you go online, you can put automatic. When it gets below a certain dollar amount, it'll automatically charge. You connect a card, some type of debit or credit card to it, and automatically add funds on there. So you're not, as long as you got funds on your card, you're not stuck somewhere. You don't ran out of money. Um, the fares, they're not really necessarily that cheap. I'm thinking I was at a Airbnb. I went downtown, or to the little town there, went downtown. It probably would have took me about 15-minute walk. I decided to wait on the bus, got on the bus and got off, and it was $2, and that ride might have been 5 minutes. So, but yeah, so just be prepared. Um, it's pretty simple living here. But yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, the rail system is fairly advanced. I would classify it as advanced. The buses cover most of the areas, at least the areas that I'll be in. Um, it's pretty here. I really like it. Birds, different color birds and stuff like that, and I liked it. And I'll probably post some pictures on my Facebook page. Okay, adapters. One of the things that I put it on another video, but I'm learning this technology, so I don't know if it posted or not. But one of the things that I during my interview process that the my my homeowners didn't go into was um, the adapter situation, and I did not get. They didn't tell me. I just happened to look at my suitcase one day before I left. Okay, this is the plug that they use. That's the adapter that I have. Okay, and that's out of the US. The adapter kit that I got is a kit that I got from back in November of last year, 2021, when I took a trip to Tanzania. Um, it was a pack that I bought on Amazon, and the plug that I use at Amazon was not this plug that I had here, but I just happened to look it up, trying to figure out, okay, what plugs am I going to take with me, and that one came up. So I bought the pack, and sure enough, there are no U.S. adapters. The people's houses do not have U.S. adapters to it. And they also don't have extension for their extension what do you call these things, tracks, multiple. I better not pull it out, but like if you buy an extension cord and it has multiple plug-in extension cord, they don't have USB connections on there. So this adapter is probably going to be burned out by the time I get ready to go back home, because I having to put it in every plug, connected up to everything. My USB I can plug. I can't plug it in my computer, and it gets fed through that way. But overall, there are no one of my Airbnb host. They've been to the U.S. before, and he basically said, no, they don't do that. They don't have those here. So, that's where we're at for that. So, I'll do the best I can with that. But all right. So, but yeah, if you have, bring your plugs. Um, Check out, like I did with Amazon, multiple. Um, the kit that I got, I think I might have paid $20 for it a couple of years ago. I don't know how much they run now, but um, I can look on there and see. I'll look on there and see, and I'll post that in there if you want to go on there. Especially in this group, we're traveling, so you need to have your electrical stuff with you, especially if you're going to be a digital nomad. But yeah, okay. I talked about the lack of black people. Okay. Um, and now let's talk what I like about here. It's a very simple, simplistic, only what you need environment. There's not a lot of elaborate houses and numerous gadgets that are not being used. Every place that I've been has basic, um, simple stuff. Um, the light switches are simple. What else? I'm looking around. Um, they use what they call a coffee kettle. Basically, it's just a pot. The plug goes in the wall. It's a pot that you switch on and I think a lot of places have those now in the U.S. But it's hot water you can use for tea or coffee. I'm trying to think, simple stuff. Smaller appliances. Um, the Airbnb that I was at had an actual dryer. But here in the other place that I was sitting for, no dryer, clothesline, but they have it's not just a string. They have it's a rack, a metal rack with string attached to it. They have clotheslines. I mean, even at the Airbnb, she actually had one that she used for her clothes, but they hang it up. It does get hot here, even though it's considered fall going into the winter. If it's not, now it has been raining quite a bit. They said it's been raining quite a bit for the past apparently 2 years. They had some real bad flooding last year, but so far it's quite a bit of rain. But when the sun comes out in the midday, it is hot. I guess the mornings. My host here said the mornings are the best time here for weather and getting out. It's light here. This is early April. It probably gets light by 5:30 in the morning. And probably by 7:30 it'll be dark. So I'm gonna have to get my body right. So I'm gonna have to start getting up with the sun and doing what I got to do during the day so I can get in bed at night. This is my second cat, and they're early. They get up early. She was fussing for her food at 5:30 this morning, and this one's loud. So she woke me up at 5:30 this morning for her food. I probably dragged it out till 6 or whatever, but I did feed her uh, right around 6 o'clock in the morning. I think the owner said she gets fed about 5:30 in the morning, but it was already light out. So, and the other cat did the same. She would she would do what's called a bed. This one doesn't get into bed. The other cat that I just had, she did what's called a bed circling. She'd get on the bed and she'd walk around the edge of the bed, squeeze in between me and the head pillow, go back around my feet, walk across my feet, come back up. Yeah. I had to push her out the bed a couple of times, but every morning she would do that bed circle around like, okay, it's time for you to get up and feed me. And I think her morning breakfast was at 7. Okay, so but yeah, but no, it's simple stuff, the no dryer, simple breakfast tables, nothing, at least not so far, nothing big, elaborate. usually 2 to 4 people, tables. Most of them have drying racks or clotheslines. What else? No dishwashers, dishwasher machine. These are your dishwashers. Um, that has been everywhere. But small, I'm looking in the kitchen now. Small, simple appliances, just what you need, nothing elaborate. Um, Most of them have NutriBullets. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, every place I've been at had NutriBullet for making smoothies. Um, Food. Oh, let's talk about that. Food so far that I've tasted has not been, how can I put it? No spices. No spices. And I'm curious to know if that's indicative of not having indigenous people around, or or they just don't season their food like that. At first I thought maybe they didn't actually, I thought that they did not actually sell spices. The first place I was at, she had salt. Her spices were salt, pepper, cinnamon, and curry. I'm used to going to places and open up the cupboard and you have 12, 20 different spices. That was all she had. That was all she had. And I did salt and pepper for a few days, and I kept looking like I know she got some spice rack around. So everybody got a spice rack. She did not have a spice rack. Um, she had the cinnamon. I ended up using quite a bit of curry, salt and pepper. The thought was go to the store and buy your own, and it was like, no, I'm not, only going to be here for a few days. If this is how they eat their food, I had to go ahead and get used to it. But yeah, I use salt, pepper, curry. Made a few cinnamon toast with sugar. They have different types of sugar here, um, but overall, their food does not the their food doesn't have sugar like we're used to in the United States. In the U.S., we are addicted to sugar, and it's probably put in there to hide other stuff that they put in there. But the bread here, not sweet. They do have McDonald's and a competitor called Happy Jacks. I think it's the name of Hungry Jacks. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna go out to visit just to see what it's like. Um, but but yeah, the bread is not sweet. Most of their stuff is not as sweet. Even their ice, I bought ice cream. Ice cream was not as sweet. Um, Trying to think what else. Yeah, their food just doesn't have sugar in it like ours does. Eggs, all their eggs are free range. Stores that I've been to, the eggs are not even in the refrigerator. They're in a big crate that they have set on the floor, and you pick your eggs off there. All the eggs are free range, local Australian eggs, big eggs. Um, Trying to think what else. Their bacon strips that they suddenly, when you say bacon here, it's like a Canadian bacon. The other bacon, what we consider regular in the U.S., is called streak bacon here, STREAK. Um, the what else? Um, Convenience items here are a little pricey. Um, I ended up buying tweezers. Well, I later found I went to IGA. The grocery stores they have here are Aldi. They have Aldi here, which is they have Aldi in the U.S., but I think they actually started out of Europe somewhere. IGA. I was surprised at that. And Kohl's, COLEDS here, and Woolworths here. Anybody from the U.S. know what Woolworths are? This is a small department store, pre-Walmart. But Woolworths here is a grocery store chain. Um, the Woolworths, the regular Woolworths is a grocery store chain of what they call a Big W, which is basically a division of Walmart. It's probably more like a division of Woolworths, which is probably more like a department store. They have Kmart's here. Okay. Not Kmart is few and far between, but shout out to Troy, Michigan. Yeah, getting the Kmart, keeping Kmart going. But yeah, Kmart is here. Woolworths for department stores. Um, Now, if you go to the bigger mall, and they do have some malls here, um, clothes are not terribly expensive. Target is here. Where else? Mm, McDonald's. I saw Subway here. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I'll go out and probably try some different places. I was asking about, all of my house sitters have been, or not, none of them have been black or indigenous. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. Okay, any black, I think the lady that I got here, I think she's more, she's into meditation more, and she has a few, um, and I'm gonna be gentle with this. She has a few black statues in here, Buddhist statue. A lot of hers are, um, the Buddhist that she does that a lot of meditation, and her different Buddhist statues are mostly, uh, mostly black. She actually goes to, she went to Bali. Um, she's, traveling now. She's out of the country now, and I believe on another meditation, um, adventure, but she has a lot of statues around. So I'll probably ask her, feel more comfortable to text her and ask her, is any indigenous or black? She did drive through downtown, a lot of Asian, Malaysian, Chinese, India. Trying to think what other places we saw pass by. I'm not sure, but I'll try a couple of places before I leave from here. Um, there's a walkway kind of, I would call it probably similar to, well, a lot of cities have like little walkways around the lake or pond. She said it was 40 minutes to walk around there, so I won't be doing that. But the bus from here is probably about 8 minute walk to get the bus. I could drive up to the next little town for maybe take about an hour to get there. Either way, the train station, either way, I can go to the local train station here and pay, or I can book a ticket and go to the regional train stations. Goes here is 30, it's about 35 minutes away. So I can ride from here, from this area down to Sydney for my last set without having to pay additional funds. On the first, what they call on the first class fare. So I'll probably do that. Um, and then trying to think what else as far as convenience. Let's talk about toilet paper. My first house sit, I got there and for some reason I started sneezing. I felt myself coming down. It was probably just a release of just all of the built up anxiety, stress, relief from traveling out of the US. Um, and I had some tissue and I blew my nose. And then when I actually went into the restroom with the tissue that I had, pulled out the tissue box, and I went in to use the toilet and I put in, but anyway, I used the tissue, and the toilet tissue in the bathroom and the tissue that I had, I threw it in the toilet like I would in the US. And, I washed my hands and came, flushed the toilet, washed my hands and came out. And the lady said, you put that, what did you do with that tissue? And I said, what tissue? And she said, the tissue that you blew your nose with. And I said, I threw it in the toilet. She said, don't do that. And I was like, what do you mean? And I'm thinking, Okay, tissue in the toilet. And to make a long story short, a good thing I flushed it for the first time. The tissue here has, in the box, has some kind of chemical on it that it does not flush immediately in the toilet. It floats on the top. And I actually had to go in there, and she was like, "Get that out of there." Um, and that's something that we, as far as infrastructure in the U.S., that's something that we assume. And this is my fourth international country that I've been to, and their septic systems are just not what they are in the US. They can't handle. And now in this particular area here, they actually have tissue that you can put in the toilet. The toilet paper tissue can go in the toilet in Mexico, in Belize, and in Tanzania. You don't put the pit tissue in the toilet. You put it in the trash can. It goes in the. It doesn't go down. It doesn't go in the toilet. It goes in the trash can. So that's something I got to get used to. But here it's a little bit more advanced than it was in the other places, and that the tissue actually can go in the toilet, and then it's minimal tissue. They do have public toilets here, but and a lot of times the tissue that is in the public toilet is very thin. I heard Rashida say something about place something about use your hand. You you got a one step above using your hand because the tissue basically disintegrates as soon as you start trying to wipe yourself. But they do have water here. Most, all the restrooms here have soap and water. So, but um, but yeah, simple stuff here. I'm looking around. Minimal. I mean, in her particular case, she said she's been living here for 30 years. So she's done some revamp. Um, cupboards are, uh, decorative cupboards that you put things in. What else? Kitchen drawers everywhere for stocking. What else? The curtains here, she have blind, which really are nice. They're like uh, shade strips of blind, so you can when you're pulling it down, you can actually get a white completely cover behind it, and then in between this screen. That's for this particular place. Um, what else? The buses, the drivers at the end of their run, they have a broom, they sweep it, and they used to do that a long time ago in the States. The drivers actually walk through and sweep and clean up their buses in between their runs. What else? The buses are very clean, comfortable seating, cloth seating. What else? Looking at my list here. What I like about here, the waterways, the birds, all the birds, they the parrots here are free flying. In the United States, people have parrots in cages. The green, bright feathers with orange crest here. Those birds fly free all over the place. I had one that I was at a uh, waiting on the bus, had a picnic table, and I started eating some of my lunch, and the birds and the parrots came right to the table, jumped on the table. I was trying to feed them and throw my chips far away, but that one of the birds just almost like he wanted me to feed them out of my hand, which I was not going to do. I like that they are pretty, but I don't like them like that. Okay, what else? Let me see if I can cover everything. Oh, okay. I'm gonna talk about my I'm talking about it now. I'm gonna wait. I want to post another video about. No, I'll do it now because the other videos are okay. I had an interview for when I got my visa in the U.S. I applied for a 6 months visa. Um, No, I didn't. It was a year. I applied for a year visa. But the choices were 6 months or a year. I went ahead and applied for a year visa with in and out privilege. And I didn't know they were going to approve it. They did approve it. Um, the visa that I have is a visa that allows me, and I didn't realize it because I actually had my last sit was going to be toward the end of my 6 month stay, and I was going to be headed back to the US. Well, I had an interview with a lady, and I really forgot. Actually, I did. I forgot. After I've been here for 10 days, I decided that I like this. I could see this. I could see doing this. I wanted to stay a little bit longer. Um, and I will be working on some content creation and some other stuff to help go with my book that I have out now. As soon as my website is ready, I'll put the link in the bio for my book. For my I was a a contributing author to a book, Wisdom Gifts, that has gone bestseller. My particular chapter is about uh, things that I encountered as a young child and how I did what I did to come through that. And I will be producing and working on different ancillary um, connections to that chapter and in my healing journey. And a big part of my healing journey is traveling. I didn't realize when I got in for one reason, and it wasn't long before I realized that I could use my house sits for healing to um, get away, to get by myself, to regroup. Um, Pets are easy to care for. They don't fuss. They don't argue. They don't, um, you know, what do you call it? Gaslight you, whatever. I mean, some pets are different. They got personalities too. But pets are unconditional love. You respect them and give them food, provide shelter, protection, and clean up their litter box or poop. They good. Um, but anyway, I had an interview with a lady once I decided that I wanted to stay a little bit longer, and she mentioned something. She said you need to check because every 3 months, passport, you have to leave. And I was like, I have to get out. And she said, well, you can come back, but you still have to leave every 3 months. And so I looked at my passport, and it was, I don't know, maybe my excitement or whatever. I really didn't process it. And so I actually called the immigration department and I told them what they had. And basically the visa that I have is every 6 months I could leave and come back. And I only have to be gone for a day. It just I just have to leave from Australia, from the landmass of Australia, go to another country and come back. And that starts my 6 months over again. So I actually have a break in house since I believe it's in late June, like 5 days. I guess what? I'm flying over to. I heard y'all talking about in Rashida on her channel talking about going over to Fiji. Fiji is like a two and a half hour flight from here, from Sydney. So I'm gonna get me a place to stay and flight. One of my matter of fact, this lady that I'm with, she was telling me about packages where you can, if you stay in a certain hotel, you could get uh, your flight as part of the package. So I'm looking into that. But I'm excited. I saw something on the news. Fiji has a indigenous president. I'm excited. Um, but my visa is actually good for July of 2024. And I didn't even realize that. When the lady said every 3 months, I was like, And so I'm glad she said something because I would have messed up my visa by not leaving because I was trying to get something in them 5 days of gap. So I'm not gonna feel like paying no, $150, $160 to stay in the hotel for, for 5 days. That'd be almost $1,000. And so I'm gonna, I have that gap that I'm gonna take for 4 or 5 days, going over to Fiji, and then I have another one that I'll need to take in December because my last re-entry date for coming back into Australia is January 10th of next year. So by then I will have had 6 months in and out, and then once I get back, it'll be uh, uh, once I get back the last time I'll be in 6 months. That will take me up to close to June or July. I'll have to calculate it. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And my airline ticket, I got a really, I'm going to be able to get a really good credit for the return part of it. And I'll probably go ahead and I'm going to work on that in the next few days. And, but yeah, check out your visa. I don't know I think the multiple entry, what I requested, because it didn't cost any more money. It was like I'll put it like this, my initial intent, why I chose Fiji. Okay. My initial intent when I got my visa was to go to New Zealand. I looked on the map, it was like, oh, New Zealand is not that far, but I want to go to New Zealand. Well, come to find out, I have to have a visa for New Zealand. And I'm like, oh no, I heard that there was a lot of places you could visit without a visa. And so the lady that I interviewed with sent me a list of places that I can go, that are islands that are nearby. And then I looked online, places that U.S. people could go without having to have a visa. And there were several. It was Fiji is in this area. A place called New Caledonia that I had never heard of. And it's probably a different name. It was probably years ago. It's probably called something else. I'm not sure. The Marshall Islands, which I think is a U.S. territory, Guam, Cook Islands, and I think it's 2 or 3 other ones that I could go hang out with for a few days. But I'm really excited about Fiji. But yeah, so I just looked on the map, and I'm gonna go there, take my break, and I'm gonna come back in. But yeah, I was very surprised that the visa. It was very it's a good visa. It's better than what I thought it was. But anyway, check what you got. But if you got any questions or comments, put them in the comment section, and I'll get back with you or respond to you if you need to. I appreciate you being with me. Again, my name is Deborah, Radical Health Series. Thanks for joining me. Thumbs up if you really if you got some value out of this. Did I miss something? Or, if you have anything to add to it, I'd appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care. Bye.